ladies and gentlemen, as if you'll recall back in June when you all passed the budget, at that time we had we described to you all it was a $39 million deficit that we would have to search for some ways in which to cost save. And at that point, it was not about ending programs. It was really about looking for efficiency in our programs. So tonight, this is one idea. Before we go and start talking to schools and start talking to parents, it's important to me that you all are the first to know kind of what we're looking at. Our intent is not to vote on it tonight. It's really about information and then for us to go to our communities to start gathering feedback. But this is one of those ways that we've identified in which there are some significant money savings as well as bolstering our programs as well. So, Dr. Mesquise.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. Tonight, as Dr. Micah shared, we are sharing a presentation regarding two of our NEISD instructional programs, the Dual Language Program and the Hyper Accelerated Math Program. We will cover each program separately to allow for questions regarding each of these programs. Our district scorecard and each of the 4 priorities, students, staff, stakeholders, and stewardship, are central to the considerations being presented this evening. Alignment to the district scorecard is a commitment highlighted throughout. I would like to bring your attention to Chapter 89, Adaptations for Special Populations, which is the policy that requires students identified as emergent bilingual students to participate in a bilingual or English as a second language program. In addition, districts with an enrollment of 20 or more emergent bilingual students of the same primary language shall be served in a bilingual program in the elementary grades, defined in policy as pre-kindergarten through 5th grade. Our district ensures the requirements for emergent bilingual students are met by delivering bilingual instruction through the 90-10 dual language program model, monitoring and assessing progress accordingly. Dual language teachers must hold appropriate bilingual certification or be filed under a bilingual education exception. Emergent bilingual students in the dual language program are served at 16 campuses across the district in elementary and in secondary at 5 middle schools and 1 high school. Elementary enrollment is the greatest, currently at just over 5,200 students. This table was presented at the September board meeting, and we are sharing it once again to display the steady increase in enrollment of emergent bilingual students over the last 8 years. As emergent bilingual student enrollment has increased, dual language teacher vacancies are rising as well. At this time, in October of 2022, there were 24 dual language teacher vacancies. 19 vacancies were filled by international teacher hires throughout the year, and currently we have 12 dual language teacher vacancies this year. So addressing program challenges that we currently have, recruiting and teacher vacancies represent the staffing challenges currently faced, even after additional hiring strategies have been employed, including relocation bonuses and contracting with an external agency. The dual language program model is currently implemented alongside monolingual instruction at each of the 16 elementary campuses. Collaborative teacher planning can often require double the time for instructional design between teacher teams. Class sizes, as we will see in a moment with Mrs. Gutierrez, are unable to be balanced across a grade level with multiple programs in place.
Thank you, Dr. Muskies. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. As we heard from Dr. Muskies, she gave us an overview of the program requirements for emergent bilinguals and some challenges we have faced with our dual language program. This next part of the presentation will focus on exploring potential options that can assist with our staffing challenges, at the same time support our cost-saving measures for our district. So on this table, you will find data for 2 of our dual language campuses. Campus A and Campus B are 1.8 miles from one another. They both offer the dual language program. The table here shows the number of student enrollments. So for example, if we follow the pre-K row, we will see that at Campus A, there are 30 students enrolled with 2 teachers allocated for those pre-K classrooms. At Campus B, we have 23 students currently enrolled with 2 teachers allocated for a total of 4 pre-K teachers at that grade level between both campuses. When we add our pre-K through 5th grade allocations, we see that we have 40 dual language teachers allocated at both of those campuses only for the dual language program. At the top of the table here, again, we see the same 2 campuses. And the table now includes the current class size averages. So for example, again, looking at pre-K, we see that at Campus A, they have a class size average of 15 students. And at Campus B, they have a class size average of 11.5. Again, both campuses are allocated a total of 40 teachers based on the number of students that are enrolled. Now, if we look at the table below, if we were to explore clustering our dual language program to one of the 2 campuses, and instead of offering the dual language program at both campus A and B, which again are 1.8 miles from each other, and for the purposes of this example, we could say Campus A becomes a dual language academy. So it would offer 100% dual language classrooms. It becomes a very specialized school, a boutique type of school. And we can see again with that same pre-K example that the students from Campus A and Campus B are now combined. So we would have the 30 students that are enrolled at Campus A, the 23 students that are enrolled in Campus B for a total of 53 students, and we would only need 3 teachers. And you can see there that the class average would be 17.6 as those 2 grade levels are combined. We have provided that example for every grade level, which you can see here that instead of needing 40 teachers at both of those campuses, we would only need a total of 34 teachers. This would allow for balanced class sizes, some efficiencies within, again, our schools, and some cost savings to the district based on the number of teachers that we would need. And in addition, this could potentially support our staffing challenges for dual language vacancies. Campus A and B also offer a monolingual program. And so the same 2 campuses again, you can see these are their numbers for their general education monolingual program. If we use kindergarten as an example here, Campus A has a total enrollment of 29 students currently in their general education classrooms with 2 teachers allocated to the kindergarten program. Campus B has 32 students that are enrolled, again with 2 teachers allocated. And in that grade level combined, they have 4 teachers, and both campuses have a total of 28 teachers for their monolingual program pre-K to 5. At the top of the table, we again see information for the same 2 campuses. Now we get to see their average class sizes. For that same example, under kindergarten, we can see that Campus A has a class average of 14.5, and Campus B has a average class size of 16. Again, both campuses combined needing 28 total teachers. And if we take a look at the bottom part of the table, if we explore clustering all monolingual students, and again, for the purpose of this example, if Campus B were to be a monolingual school, then we would only need 22 total teachers based on the enrollment and the combination of students from Campus A and Campus B. This campus model mirrors our 29 other elementary schools that only offer the monolingual general education program and do not currently have the dual language program within their schools. Again, you can see our class sizes being more balanced and efficient in this model. So some of the benefits of clustering align to our district scorecard priorities for our students. They would receive very specialized services specific to their program. We would have certified staff. Currently, as you saw in Dr. Muskis' chart, we have 12 dual language vacancies. So this would allow us to have bilingual staff available for all of our classrooms to support our students and potentially not have to submit for bilingual exceptions and waivers and have other staff like substitutes fill in those positions. For our staff, their professional learning and support would be very personalized to their program, whether it's for the dual language program or for the monolingual program. They would receive very specific, again, targeted support aligned to their needs and their instructional strategies. We would be able to have the ability to support the dual language academies with expertise from all staff. That would be principals, teachers, any specialized programs that are assigned to that campus would be very specific to the dual language framework and model. For our stakeholders, we would be able to offer a 100% dual language academy, again, a very boutique type of school, magnet school that would support our dual language students, but also support parent interests, as we currently have 1,368 families that are enrolled in our dual language program that are not emergent bilinguals. So they choose the program for their children who are English proficient as a part of them wanting their children to be bilingual and biliterate and follow the program within the model of dual language, even though it is not a requirement for them because they are not emergent bilinguals. Under stewardship, again, we're looking at balanced class sizes, efficiency, and then a cost savings to the district based on the model that was shown on the tables. Exploring next steps. So we would like to explore these next steps, again, keeping our district scorecard at the forefront of all of our decisions. For our students, really analyzing the least amount of impact and disruption to our students and our campuses as we are creating these clusters and exploring the option to combine. For our staff, being able to go out and talk to staff, ask for their feedback and their input through surveys, work closely with human resources to support staff who may have to relocate to a different campus based on clustering. For our stakeholders, we would hold in-person community feedback meetings to help them understand the process, the why, the benefits, and also ask for their input and feedback based on this change. We would use surveys as well. And then aligned to parent choice, our parents would still have the opportunity to opt into school choice as they do if the cluster that they are assigned to or the school that we are proposing is not one that they would prefer. They would still have the option to apply for school choice. Transportation, we would work very closely with Mr. Bill Harrison in the transportation department to find an option for our families who are being clustered and ensure that there is a mean of transportation for them. Under stewardship, we would explore options to consolidate. We talked about, Dr. Muski shared that we have 16 dual language campuses, so over a 2-year period, we will explore those options to consolidate and develop a cost analysis for you so that you can see the benefits and the cost measures that would be connected to this initiative, and then bring you a board update for possible approval in February. At this time, we would like to open the floor for questions for the dual language presentation.
Yeah, before we do that, let me just give you a ballpark figure to that one scenario. So if we were to cluster in that and you downsize by 12 staff members, there's also a few other staff in there. The cost savings is somewhere around... No.
Oh.
That's per teacher.
Right. What were you asking?
Are you going to go with me here, Mr. Villarreal?
Sorry.
I've already done my math. You can check it.
12 times 75?
Yeah, 12 times 75 is 900,000. But then there's some other pieces in there. So that one scenario is approximately $1 million in savings. And again, the key is, and what I want to make sure that's understood is, this is an idea right now. It takes a lot of feedback. It takes a lot of talking to community, to school personnel before that move. But this is one of those concepts where we can look at delivering it differently, where we can actually bolster up the program a little bit by making it, as Ms. Gutierrez said, a boutique campus, to where it's really only that piece. But look, it's going to impact some folks as well. I mean, that's just the honest piece. But this is one of those ways when we start looking across it. I'm going to get out over my skis a little bit, and don't hold me to it. But when we looked at this, if we were to do it purely like this, which I don't think we can, but if we did, this is somewhere around an $8 million savings through the whole system. It's a large sum of money tied to this. But I want you to understand that as we've looked at it in a cursory look, I don't know that we can do that pure piece to get to that dollar amount. But there are some significant cost savings here to make up that $39 million deficit. No, thank you, Madam President.
Question? Anybody have questions?
I had one comment, Madam President. Thank you all. Conceptually sounds good. Obviously, there are going to be trade-offs. I think that parent input in particular, and then the transportation piece, but it looks like a good opportunity aligned with the scorecard to provide that balanced classroom size. I think is the key thing for the student learning, because we got to keep that at the forefront. So I think that's a great opportunity if the rest of the pieces work out realistically. So looking forward to seeing feedback from the parents, the communities, the teachers as well, because of that moving, that it's an impact as well. But it looks like a good option for us to possibly consider, assuming y'all find all the practical pieces that go with the rest of the concept.
Yeah.
So this is a really good first look. So thank you for
and Mr. Hilliard, one thing I want to add that I did not is, as these meetings start to get scheduled and they're happening in your single member district, we're going to let you know. And if you want to come and listen, please come and listen. I mean, it's going to be truly listening and understanding folks' point of view and trying to balance these four components out in bringing you back a recommendation that makes sense. We say in here a 2-year plan, folks, it could be 3. I don't know. The complexity of each community is that, and we need to treat it. We've talked about our 7 distinct communities. That's how we're going to go about doing this. So we'll just start making our way through, and it's very real. I want you all to know that we may say we're only going to talk this year to this group, these 3 or 4 communities, and then next year we'll pick another 3 or 4 and we'll work our way through. Because what we don't want to do is get into a rush and just be going out and listening and it just starts. We really want to take our time and do it right by each community. Okay?
I have a quick question. Is it possible that if we do move forward with something like this and there's a shuffle of students and teachers, that we inadvertently end up overwhelming a group of teachers or a couple of teachers?
No, I mean, the answer's no, because as you can look at your numbers, just look at the class size numbers. Remember, by state law, pre-K through 4, right? No, kinder through 4th is 22 to 1. So we never exceed that number. And so again, what we're going to do by bringing you a proposal in the future is also talk about the support that we would be able to deliver that campus, not just consolidate, but here's how the support would look differently for them. Did y'all want to add anything to that?
Well, as we said, we'll work very closely with human resources and ensure that there is a plan of support for teachers who are having to relocate. And also, we want to create the least amount of disruption and impact. So that will definitely be a part of the plan.
And just understand under this, nobody would lose their job. I want everybody to understand that, all right? What we would do is work with HR to make sure that people have placements about if this were the path that you all approve sometime next spring, right? So I just want you to know that nobody's going to, we need teachers, all right?
I have a quick question. So you mentioned this magic number of $8 million. All right, you had me at that. Is that per cluster? Or it's just
That-
total
That's
throughout
total,
the
Ms.
district?
Villarreal. That would be total if we clustered everything purely along that example. But again, I don't know that that's going to work with every single scenario. Okay? So it will, in some cases, in this case, they're 1.8 miles apart, they're pretty close. But in some clusters, they're spread out a little bit more. And at that point, then, you got to start looking at, does that even make sense? And some other factors in there that we've been talking about. But again, this is conceptually something we've been talking about. Susie's been, and her folks have been working with us to get some ballpark numbers. Because when we first looked at this, we only looked at it solely from the dual language side. But then when we started to realize, oh my goodness, this actually is going to start reduction of staff on the monolingual side as well, is where we got to, this is a large sum here that can be saved. Still delivering the service, it's just going to be delivered differently. And it gets back to Ms. Villarreal, something you and I have had many discussions about with these boutique type schools, that this is where it is. It's not everywhere, it's here, and you can come to it if you wish.
In creation of these boutique type schools, is that an opportunity for us to offer to a larger community, maybe a school of choice for other school districts within the area?
I think we've had that discussion before. That's really a board's decision on whether you all wish to open the boundaries or not.
I think on the flip side of Ms. Landry's question about overwhelming a school, I guess just to keep in mind as we go forward, making sure we're not shifting student population and teacher population around to where now we put a school in danger of being under-enrolled, where we have to look at campus consolidation because of some issue like that. So
that is why I'm being sort of elusive,
Right.
Mr.
And I know
Byer, is
we have
that
case studies
what
and
we
it's-
don't want to do is make one move and help
Right.
something and inadvertently hurt another in the process, right? And so that is the essence of, we're giving you a scenario, but that's why I'm saying in a pure scenario, this is one way, but it's not going to work. It's never that clean, and that's where feedback's going to be so essential as we move it along.
And to see the numbers drop, I guess just on the dual language portion from like 5th grade to middle school, is that because students are sort of getting, like, consciously getting out of the program because they don't need the program anymore, or they don't like the program? I mean, is it a combination of all those things? It just seems like we go from 5,000 students down to,
I think it's a combination of students exiting the program. They're being reclassified, so they're exiting the program at middle school. And also, we only offer the program at 5 campuses, so their choices are limited.
limited. Okay.
And the program structure is also different in secondary versus elementary, and so that kind of changes the attitude or the acceptance of the program going forward. So that's part of it too.
Thanks.
So is there a timeline for when you're going to start these feedback meetings and surveys and?
Well, what we have a rough estimate, but what we wanted to do first was to present it to you all and let me feel the room, quite frankly, and see if this is, I told my staff, please hold back until we have an opportunity to inform you all. And let's see, because it's imperative you all know what we're thinking. And then at least then when you're approached by a constituent in your community, you can have that conversation, say, yep, this is what's going on. You come to this meeting or come to that meeting. So we'll start them.
So,
I turn to him.
so really, after this meeting, then we'll get together and really create a timeline of meeting schedules and different things like that, and then come up with a communications plan with our communications office on how we can reach out to our communities to make sure they're informed about when these times and these opportunities to have these face-to-face conversations, working with our Qualtrics to send out the surveys to make sure we get feedback and timely feedback, and then sort through that. So there's a lot of factors go into it, but the first step was getting in front of you guys to make sure that you're fully aware, because we don't want you blindsided at any point through your communities.
And obviously, as you get information back and feedback, and we hear from the community and from the teachers and the administrators, that February sort of time frame could be beyond that. Could be March, could be whatever. And I think,
Mr.
as we've
Byer,
seen
it's
in the
going
past, we
to,
want to make sure we do our due
We're
diligence, like you said.
we're giving you in a perfect scenario,
Sure.
right? In the end, we're going to let the process drive the timeline, not so much a definitive date, and then say, well, too bad, we're not listening anymore. It's kind of like, no,
Yeah.
we need to take everything into consideration and hear viewpoints to make the best informed recommendation to you all sometime next spring.
Okay. So now are we moving on to Ham?
So the next part of our presentation focuses on our hyper-accelerated math program, also known as HAM. And I just want to draw attention to, we're saying that we want to redesign the program and not get rid of the program. So it's really important that we still offer the differentiated options for our students who show exceptional math aptitude. And the program was developed in 2018 just for that, to really provide a differentiated option for our students so that by the time they get to high school, they have the opportunity to earn college credit and more course options. So here on our table, our colorful table shows our NEISD math pathways. So you can see our on-level sequence starting at 4th grade through middle school. Then we have our honors accelerated sequence that allows students to take one high school credit course, Algebra 1. And our hyper-accelerated sequence is the one we are speaking of today, which allows our students to have 2 high school credit courses, Algebra 1 and Geometry, by the time they leave 8th grade. And really the purpose is for students to, again, have access to a variety of course options, as you can see on the purple box to the right, based on their future career interests, based on what they decide that they want to pursue. And so students do have the opportunity to choose from multiple course options once they enter high school. For the purpose of this presentation, we really want to focus on the 5th grade hyper-accelerated math program. So if we go back to our green row, hyper-accelerated sequence under 5th grade, you can see that at that time students are taking the 6th grade honors course, and students do not have that option in elementary school. That is not an elementary school course. So we have to find different ways for our students to be delivered that service or that option. Another point that I want to make sure that everybody understands with hyper-accelerated is that we universally screen all students at the end of 3rd grade, so every child has the option to enter into the program in their 4th grade year based on assessment results. So currently, the 5th grade HAM course is offered to students in a variety of ways. One way is if a campus has 15 or more students assigned to their class, then they have one of their 5th grade teachers who is certified in middle school to service their students. So the rest of the 5th grade students are divided with the rest of the team, and one of the 5th grade teachers is assigned to teaching that course on the campus. For students or schools that have less than 15 students, then our curriculum and instruction department has hired 11 roving teachers, and the roving teachers are assigned to different campuses. They teach 3 sections of the HAM 5th grade course, traveling to 3 different sites daily to provide that support. And currently we have 30 sites that are serviced through that model. And we also offer a hybrid model for campuses that have 1 to 2 students. Again, not having enough rovers to service individual students, we've had to get very creative and created a hybrid model that allows for one of the 11 rovers to serve in a hybrid model on a rotating A-B schedule. So a week, the students are serviced through in-person instruction 3 days a week, 2 days of virtual, and that alternates on B week where they would receive 2 days of in-person instruction and 3 days of virtual. Currently, as of last week, we have a total of 370 fourth grade students enrolled in the HAMP program and 317 in the 5th grade program. So here is an example of 2 of our roving teachers' schedules. So you can see that our rovers, again, as I mentioned, they travel to 3 different campuses daily. They begin their day at 8 o'clock is their first period. They travel to their first campus, and they service the number of students assigned to them in the same school every day. They then travel to their second campus for the next assigned school and the number of students assigned, and you can see again then their third rotation. So in the example of teacher A, that teacher services 11 students daily and they travel 5.2 miles. And the curriculum and instruction math department does a really good job of trying to keep those schools as closely as possible to maximize schedules and travel time between rovers. Our rovers are paid for their daily mileage. Okay. And at this time, Dr. Muskies will share additional possibilities and next steps for our hyper-accelerated math program.
As possibilities are explored to improve alignment with the district scorecard, considerations may include continuing to offer hyper-accelerated math at campuses with 15 or more qualifying students, and also offering designated cluster schools for the Math Accelerated program. Seeking community input will provide valuable feedback for additional possibilities to examine. We seek to provide the following benefits aligned to each priority of the district scorecard. Increased collaboration between students and continuing to offer the program, clustering at centralized locations, reducing travel time for employees, continuing to offer a hyper-accelerated math program model, as well as identifying ways to increase stewardship with balanced class sizes and cost savings. So our next steps aligned to our district scorecard will involve shaping a redesign that has the least amount of impact to students and campuses, seeking and responding to feedback from staff and stakeholders, and bringing back to the board a detailed cost analysis and updates in early spring. So thank you, and at this time, I would like to ask if there are any questions that we may address regarding the hyper-accelerated math presentation.
Any questions?
Just one, Madam President. Are we generally seeing a trend of increasing number of students when we're testing every third day? Are we seeing higher enrollments across in the HAMP program, I guess, for lack of a better term, as a general trend the last couple of years? Or is it staying pretty consistent?
I would say we have seen an increase,
Okay.
yes.
I think we took a slight dip during the pandemic.
Sure.
But we have seen an increase in, again, especially with universally screening all of third grade students, and that has allowed us to identify more students that qualify for the
So
program.
this program is likely to continue to grow in some shape with the number of students involved. Okay, thank you. That's it.
Go ahead.
Sorry, one question I had, it's sort of early on in the, one of the earlier slides, it talks about the on-ramps dual credit, and kind of brings up a question I've had before, but are those things that, I guess for the HAM program, that's what they're kind of put into, but do those kids have options to, or do the schools have options to have pre-calculus but not on-ramps or dual credit? I mean, if they want the pre-calculus class, but not necessarily on-ramps or dual
Yeah.
credit?
So-
Or are we locked into that at every
No.
school?
All the schools have the opportunity to offer advanced math classes in all of those categories. Ultimately, the course catalog and course selection should have access for kids to choose if they want that class. The challenges at times with dual credit is finding a teacher to teach dual credit
'Cause they have to be
across the
certified,
whole
right.
entire district. And so that's where the challenges come in, hence why there was a push for on-ramps, is to diversify our portfolio of math offerings. So if a school can't offer dual credit, perhaps they can offer AP stats as well as on-ramp stats. So at least you have two vehicles to get an advanced level course under your belt.
But those on-ramps also have to be certified teachers, correct?
They have to be certified in math. They don't have to have dual credit. The on-ramps teachers have to go through a 2-week training in the summer with UT Austin, and once they complete that training in UT Austin, they have to then meet with the professor, I believe, and don't quote me on this, it's been a while, but I think twice a year, and then they have to go back every summer for 3 days to re-up their credentials with University of Texas.
So are those, the ham students, that is the natural course that they would have to, they basically have to take the dual credit or on-ramps version of those
They still have the
courses?
choice, Mr. Byer. I think it's really about what lights their fire the most. It's very different from a student who wants to take calculus versus a student who wants to take stats. And so depending on what their career choices may be, they can opt into that vehicle. But it does garner them greater access to multiple courses, because some students could take calculus and stats the same year because they've already achieved many high school credits in mathematics.
Right. Okay. But I know going forward, as we look at this, I want to make sure that we're looking at that as well, because I know there are examples where that was the only class offered at a school, and that, you know, if a student or a family or a parent or guardian doesn't necessarily want to have to deal with that whole part of dual credit, or they're just looking to take a calculus class and not have to have an actual on-ramps or dual credit, I know that option isn't always available to everybody.
Yeah, and that's something we need to spend some time educating our campuses on, because really ultimately it should be the parent and the child working together to map out their future goals and then aligning their courses of study to what that goal is.
Yeah, but the other thing, and Mr. Jarrett, correct me if I'm wrong, is that could be driven by interest level as well. There's only 3 kids that are wanting to pursue that class may not be offered at that school.
Correct. And so
due to low interest.
Yes, and that's
Correct.
where the course catalog drives the master schedule. Typically, a course doesn't make if there's less than 15 kids in there, because what that does is it oversizes another class and makes that class 35 kids. And so the principals and the campuses have to make decisions that make a balanced master schedule just as well, but it does increase the communication need between the school and home.
I have a question, and I apologize if you said this. I didn't catch it. If you, all the students are going through and to be tested or whatever to see if does the parent have to approve their going into the program, or if you've identified a student who needs that accelerated math, do we just put it in it, or does the parent have to?
There is a course agreement, so
Okay.
the parent is notified that the child has qualified, and then the parent is brought into the conversation as to what the requirements of the class and commitment are for the program.
Okay, all right,
Yes.
thank you. Any other questions or comments? Oh,
Just
sorry.
one, and you may have already covered this, but would this be kind of like another boutique sort of school where we would just transport all the kids to one location?
It might be, Ms. Villarreal. Again, this is very conceptually at its beginning. It's important. My fear was that as we continued these discussions, that somehow you would be hearing about it without knowing about it. I wanted you all to know as a board first what we're talking about. To go in, but again, when you're looking at these numbers, as you can see, there's just a lot of inefficiencies in it. And our question is there a way to cluster some of this, to give it, because look, a ham class with 1 kid in it or 2 kids in it is not a very good class. They need more interactions, right? So we're looking at bringing that balance again across that scorecard. For our kids, for our staff, for our community, and also in cost savings. So wherever that is, we hope to come back, but it may look like that. Like, again, hypothetically speaking, you could look at a cluster and say, wow, really at that level, there's 26 kids. Well, maybe it makes more sense, but you got to factor in the other family circumstances as well. So there's just a lot of moving pieces that we have to know and go out and start talking with community about, and our teachers.
well, could you do something, and I'm just saying, not just a math cluster, but you could do advanced English, advanced, in the one particular.
Right now, we only do hyper-accelerated math at elementary. Right now. We'll see. We got to get these first two things. I mean, look, folks, what we rolled out to tonight's a lot of work and a lot of time and energy to go into it. But that, in my opinion, the climb's worth the view here, to make sure that we do it right, get the right input, and bring you guys a correct or a solid recommendation of here's kind of how we can make it all work. But in the end, look, I mean, as you're clustering or doing, somebody always feels like they're getting something right. Now, our hope is that we can kind of explain it in a manner that people understand it, because it's not just simply about money. That's one piece of it. But as you can see through it, it's all the other factors as well as we discuss them.